Greetings, thank you for joining me today. Slightly different location to my normal filming location today, primarily because the household is in utter upheaval. We've made changes to the bathroom, bedroom and the home office and it's all become a bit messy, so I decided to film in the front room instead. Now, we can all do more with what we have. It's a delightful and kind of repulsive Tory mantra, but doing more with less, yeah. And I think we can do that. Now, when the Tories use it, of course, they mean you won't be able to do much, you're just going to pay more. They know we can't do more with less, but there are things you can do, things you can change to make better use of what you buy. Now, for the average household, the sort of things you buy might be gas, electricity, water. At least one of those gas or electricity is what you're going to be buying. And you can't do much about that, or can you? Well, you can. In the old days, we used to heat just one room. So in the winter, the deepest midwinter, everyone would gather, the family would gather around the fire in the front room, in the lounge, and watch the telly together and play games together and talk together, and we'd stay primarily in that room. Only when you don't decide to go to bed would you ever of an evening move out of that main living room, and that was the main room that was heated in the house. And you might heat it with solid fuel, electricity, gas, doesn't really matter. The fact was you were heating just one room. And up until the early 70s, up until the late 80s, my own parents didn't have gas central heating in their home. And it was a very late addition. Now, of course, when it was installed, it was in itself a great upheaval. Great chunks were gouged out of the joists that held the floor up. Not ideal considering the sort of build they were looking at. And then radiators were installed around the house, which were, well, they were a help on the bleakest winter days. But the guiding principle of what we did in earlier times, sitting around the fire, being a family together, staying warm together, well, that still worked better than, frankly, the central heating ever did. So every bedroom had a radiator, the lounge had a radiator. That was basically the extent of it. The kitchen didn't really have space for a radiator. Downstairs toilet, I don't recall whether that had one, but the fact was the system was there, and on a cold day, well, we knew what it was like without it, but for the money that was spent on the gas, you kind of wonder whether really was it worth it. Now, when I moved out and eventually had my own house, the boiler was a place where I hemorrhaged money, absolutely hemorrhaged money. And I'm not going to mention the boiler make, because I don't believe it's an exception to the rule. But it was a popular brand, and it leaked and cost me money on parts and more gas than you can think of. Yeah, it was a nightmare. And eventually I got sick of it, pulled it out and replaced it with electric water heaters, because frankly they're the better way to go. With the current abode, with the wife and kids, the need for heating is still there. Now, if I was on my own, I could probably say, well, in these troubled times, I could wrap up warm on a cold winter's day. I know we're in the midst of summer at the moment, British summer. And the winter seems far off, but it's only a few months away. And before long, well, we don't know what we're heading for. We could have a snowy winter, we don't know. We could have a biting ice, we don't know. Or it could just rain cats and dogs the whole time. We don't know. But what we do know is we'll likely need the heating at some point. Now, like I say, if I was on my own, I'd wrap it warm and I wouldn't run the central heating. I'll be blowed if the fat cats in the energy companies are going to get my money. Not without a struggle. It's just not worth it. But when you've got a family, you can't really do that. Now, if you of course want to do it together, you know, to sit down, use the same room, be economical that way, dress up warm. Some families just don't run the radiators. They like to be cold, which is cool, you know, literally. But we're not one of those. We do like to be a little warmer. Now, we are getting better at wrapping up warm and staying warm that way in the winter, but we still need to make efficiency savings. Now, the radiator system that we have in place at the moment is your standard combi boiler. So it produces hot water for the taps, the shower, and it also produces hot water to supply heat to the radiators. And every room has one, 2 radiators downstairs, and one in each of the bedrooms upstairs, and the back room as well. So, yeah, standard sort of system. But it's not an efficient system. When it was installed as a bit of a bodge job, really. I won't go into all the details, but suffice to say, there are leaks, and the radiators were recycled from a previous build, and I'm sure that wasn't the first boiler they'd ever seen. It looked like they were on at least their second boiler or third boiler before they were installed with the system we currently have. Now, the boiler we have at the moment has a little life left in it, I feel, and you know, with regular servicing by a qualified corgi engineer, gas safe engineer, it'll go on for some years, I hope. What we decided to do was to make some efficiency savings to the system, cut a couple of the radiators out from downstairs because we never feel the benefit, and replace the radiators that we do have with 3 brand new ones. Now, I know what you're saying. This is a costly exercise. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But you will feel the benefits when you do this. Now, obviously, if your radiators are brand new, installed in the latest boiler build, and you know they're not more than 10 years old, odds are they're going to be good. But in our radiators, 3 of them are rusty beyond belief, and there are leaks in the system. So it's been powered down over the summer, rightly so, and tomorrow I'll be draining the radiators and doing some replacement. Now, with that in mind, I've been looking at other parts of the system. Now, the system that we had installed had one of the wonderful magnetic filters fitted to it. Now, when I came to look at it, part of the upgrades, I found that filter, after 5 years, had failed spectacularly. And it was leaking gradually into the floorboards and causing damage where you couldn't see it. Marvellous, marvellous. All fun and games until it brings the ceiling down. But it is essential to have one of these things because when you've got steel radiators or iron radiators, they do rust internally, and you need something to take the rust out of the system, otherwise it'll trash your pump. So I thought, well, okay, well, we need a new one. Now, they're not cheap. They run in at anything from £60 to, well, sky's the limit, really. But we got one, sub £50. It came the other day. It's one I found on eBay. It comes from Team Controls, but you might find alternatives elsewhere. It's your choice if you want to do this. I would recommend always updating the parts on your boiler system as often as you can afford to do so. Now, if you're with a gas service engineering contract, there won't be any room to do this. They fix it when it breaks, but you might go a long way by helping yourself by arranging for an engineer to come and do upgrades and repairs ahead of the regular service, the emergency services. Indeed, if you just pay for one service every year to make sure it's safe to use and repairs as you go, you might find it works out cheaper than a gas service contract. However, back to this. So it's a TCMFILT micromagnetic filter, 22mm size in this case. So the 22mm denotes the pipes that it connects to. There are other options for those who have different systems. Let me turn the camera around, shall we? So, what do you get for your money? Well, This filter filters magnetic and non-magnetic particles. So there's a little mesh filtration thingy in this. I'll be getting that out later if I can get it open or not. So that's the filter itself with the magnet. You can remove the magnet, and there it is. Fascinating stuff. It's a smaller device than the one initially fitted, but then I'm using less radiators, so it's okay. That's that. It's solid plastic. Then there's one gate valve, two gate valves, 22mm of course, instructions, and a couple of washers, and I guess you'd call it a wrench. A couple of washers and a wrench. And oh yes, and a lovely big Allen key. That'll be nice. I'm guessing this is for this bit here. Just guessing. For draining it, I suppose. Yeah, so it's a nice kit, a comprehensive kit, and assuming you've got one already, of course, it should be a fairly straightforward operation to either not bother replacing these and splicing the new one in, or doing a complete new install using the gate valves and a little bit of extra pipe. Now the difference between the average filter and this one is that this one has the in and out at right angles to each other, which is not the norm. Normally it's just a straight through, which is fine, and I might post a picture or two of some examples of this right here. Yeah, so a nice bit of kit, as I'm sure you'll agree. There are posher devices, bigger devices, things for a larger central heating system, but we're downgrading the system to do more with less. So it's going to have to run the boiler far less to heat 3 radiators compared to the 5 that it previously heated. So if you apply that principle to your own home, I know you can cut some radiators out the system. You can shut the valves, but this is more about completely upgrading and renovating, and we're also dealing with pipes that might be furred up in the process. So this is what we're going with. Now it comes with comprehensive instructions, which is really nice. Little schematics. It's designed to be mounted kind of this way up, basically. So we've got on the underside we've got a drain hole, and that's what the hex key's for, and it's got a wee washer on there as well to make sure you don't have a flood on your hands. And it's a really nice bit of engineering. You've got a recessed washer in that plug, really nice brass plug, and fiberglass reinforced plastic. It's recommended you service it once every year, at least once every year, depending on the sort of water you're using. I recommend, if you're not competent to do it, of course, get a proper engineer to do it. I'm going to be doing it myself because, well, that's how I roll. I'm happy to do so. It has a washer for each one of these gate valves, which I've kind of loosely put in place. And it's recommended that you set it up so that you can access the valves and turn. These are quite stiff, these gate valves, when first used. They soon loosen up. They've got nylon inners. There we go. You can see. Fascinating stuff, isn't it? Yes, on top we've got a little air release valve. So the idea is that you fit it to the system. It fits on the back end of the flow. So basically your flow starts off at the boiler being pumped out, and it goes to your first, second, third, fourth, or however many radiators, and then finally back to the boiler. so it goes in the flow back to the boiler. And the idea is it goes in, I think it goes in here and then comes out up here, and then from here it leads to your boiler. Now the idea of this, of course, is to catch any particles that come out of your radiators and filter those out so they don't hit your pump. Oh fudge. Now on the side, as I showed you before, there is the removable magnet, which again, here it is there, and you get this wrench which you use to undo this when it's all installed for its annual service. And you can take the little basket out. It's a wire basket, a mesh basket, which you take out, you clean, you drain it off, you clean it, you put it all back together, it's all good. It comes with a spare washer for this part, and there's already one installed when I looked at it, so I'm not going to install that. And yeah, it's a really nice bit of kit. I shall let you know how it gets on and likely film the process of install and the first fire up. Once you fit it, of course, you have to purge the air, so you basically purge the air at the radiators to make sure that the radiators fill properly, and then you purge the air, if there is any, in here to make sure that you don't get any airlocks in the system. And yeah, and then off you go. Well, thank you for watching, and I do appreciate you taking the time to watch me today. Whatever you do, have a great day.